And today's moderator for this session is Mehri Madarshahi. For 26 years, Mehri has worked at the Secretariat of the United Nations in New York. She's been a senior economist. She was in charge of external relationships, and she's worked for decentralization of economic and social affairs. She has founded the Melody for Dialogue Civilization Association with headquarters in France, Switzerland, Hong Kong, and the United States. She has organized multicultural mega concerts for the advocacy on social and economic issues, working together with UNESCO, UNEP, Habitat, and CERN, and the academic world. She has also founded the Global Cultural Network. So she's a member of the International Center for Creativity and Sustainable Development under the auspices of UNESCO in Beijing, and she's also authored many essays on research, environment, creative and circular economy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mehri Madarshahi.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are and whichever country you reside on. I wish to begin with thanking Fondazione Patricio Paolotti for inviting me to this very important meeting. I also would like to congratulate the association or the foundation for their 21st anniversary. Let me briefly start with talking about myself. I happen to be called Mehri Madarshahi, and I call myself internationalist. I was born in Iran, studied in Canada, worked in the United Nations in New York, married a German, live at this point in Paris and Barcelona, and I am a professor of 3 different universities in China. So that says it all. However, you may ask why an internationalist by education and economist like me advocates for music. Well, they all started in the year 2000, when the General Assembly adopted a resolution on dialogue among civilizations. This was a controversial resolution, contrary to its name. It created a lot of debate among East, West, North, and South of the universe on what is dialogue and what is civilizations. It was not until I came to Paris and I was invited to a conference on Islamic states, which was organized by UNESCO, where the same topic was in the agenda of this particular conference. And again, the same debate for 2 days. What is dialogue and what is civilizations? I decided that evening to bring together 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 musicians from different countries with different musical instruments, put them together on the stage and ask them to play something together without any rehearsal. They managed, and at the end of the evening, they brought in a beautiful melody which they never rehearsed before, and everybody was very pleased to listen to. The glory was registered. The next day, we had the first sentence in the final resolution on the importance of music in international dialogue. It was a few years later when UNESCO asked me to celebrate its 60th anniversary and produce something on dialogue again. And this time, it was not 7 musicians, it was 300. And they were from 75 different countries, because UNESCO has got 194 member states. And each of them, they decided within their capacity to provide us with 1 musicians. We had a classical orchestra, and then we had this, as I call them, orchestra of the world, and they played together Mozart. It was sensational. And soon after this program, we received enormous number of invitations from various countries in the world to repeat this peaceful dialogue with music, and more or less use that as a lesson for how we could really live with each other without any predilection on who is doing what and who is coming from what race. We are all equal. For that reason, in 2012, Aspen Institute offered the Melody for Dialogue Among Civilization Association one of the most prestigious prize for music or dialogue or cultural diplomacy. We also attended to many, many sessions and paid attention to the fact that the world needs help. The world has to become aware of internationally recognized problem of climate change. And to that effect, we organized 5 major concerts and forums, one after the other, on water alone. The piece of music that you saw performed by Tandun was one of those conferences or concert which was held in Hangzhou, China. And Tandun, for the first time ever, produced music for water, rock and roll, which you saw only a few seconds of it. We also collaborated with various universities around the world, and among them, of course, is Northeastern University, New York University, American University in Paris, and also the University of Florida and a few others, leave alone the fact that we were also engaged with various international organizations, as mentioned very kindly at the beginning, like the United Nations, UNESCO, UNEP, WFP, and Habitat, etc., in producing our program. Now, I wish here to play a very short piece of one of our concerts, which was held in Geneva in 2009 on the occasion of international conference, which was held in Copenhagen on climate change. And this particular program created an environment where the entire Geneva turned green, and the association was offered 1 million trees. So please go ahead and play that piece. Thank you very much for listening to this piece of music. As you could see, there were a collaboration between Chinese musicians and the classical orchestra, and the whole program was on Forest, Smetana, and also Villa-Lobos, which comes gradually later, and La Mer de Debussy, which we ended our program with. Now, let me talk today about what I was supposed to talk to start with, and that is the innovation solution to current crisis. How can we start building a new vision for sustainable future? The exigencies for sustainable development became an internationally recognized need with the Brundtland report. However, the report did not incorporate culture into its triad of society, economics, and the environment. While there was no direct reference to culture among the goals articulated by the 2005-2015 Millennium Development Goals, in 2011, based on UNCTAD Creative Economy report, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution calling for the mainstreaming of culture in the development policies. I have a few slides for you, and here really we explain what is culture. Culture is not only one word, it is a kind of holistic approach to a great number of activities in human life. Despite all its effort, unfortunately, the SDGs 2015-2030 did not even recognize the importance of culture and the art as the main pillar of development, and it only highlighted the role of culture in the implementation process of SDGs. Living in the pandemic age led to closure of societies and distancing of humanity. Nevertheless, it highlighted the critical and constructive role of culture at large and the arts in particular. The ensuing silence dictated the need for a new mechanism, if not a vehicle, to bring to the fore the interconnectivity of nature, creativity, design, and artistic imagination in facilitating a renewed dialogue among people and civilizations. The overarching discourse about the importance of the links between art, music, and sustainability has grown vastly since then. Increasingly, in the past year, sustainability advocates call upon culture, including the art and music, to help break through the alienation. As a consequence, we have seen significant shift at the international level from culture being a weak thread in international development discourse to the UN Economic and Social Council, which is ECOSOC, suggesting to the cities that the culture to be recognized as the fourth pillar of sustainable development. Soon after the adoption of the SDGs, ECOSOC held that culture, including artistic creativity, heritage, knowledge, and diversity, due to its pivotal roles in economic, social, and sustainable development, should be mainstreamed into development. Again, in this schema, or in this presentation, you can see the importance of culture, particularly when it comes to economic development. Now, according to our task today, we must revert to an ideal world which mapped by philosopher and social ideologue such as Confucius, Zoroastrian, Buddha, Sadi, and alike, who invited humanity to act as humanist and emphasized the necessity of collective thinking about the multinational aspect of human living. The principle must be achieved through popular participation, through communication, through dialogue, through scientific cooperation, and through an open mind to understand the diverse universe of mankind to which culture is a matrix of infinite possibilities. It could act as a bridge to sustainable development goals by contributing to a more harmonious world and durable peace. And also, it is a common belief that music, as an integral element of culture, is essential for human survival and development. It is the livelihood of culture and individual as well as collective identity. Participatory music, in particular, could play a critical role in enabling human response to climate change, its ability to draw upon illicit, deep levels of both verbal and non-verbal imaginary symbols and emotion that makes it a vitalizing element for our current journey towards sustainability. To empower sustainability researchers, program managers, activists, engineers, and others engaged with practical sustainability needs, they have to actively create music through public education as an integral component of practices for which sustainable culture can emerge. The United Nations has recognized the value of music as such, and therefore it has launched the United Nations Music and Environment Initiative that is managed by UNEP. According to UNEP, music is one of the most powerful media to communicate environmental messages to billions of people around the world, irrespective of race, religion, income, gender, or age. There is a growing belief that to successfully solve global problems, we need to develop new paradigm, to elaborate new moral and value criteria, and without doubt, a new pattern of behavior, bringing environmental topics into entertainment sphere and modeling can help normalize the act of caring for the environment. Music has a direct positive effect on physical, mental, and emotional health. Furthermore, it can help in alleviation of poverty, creating awareness on preservation of water. It can act as effective tool in educating and spreading valuable information about health, including COVID, HIV/AIDS prevention, and immunization campaign. Music is also an economic force in the world by generating millions of workforce and its related industry. Just for your visual information, 6.5% of the total European workforce is thanks to music and music-related industries. The COVID-19 pandemic brought most social activities to screeching halt for over a year. We weren't allowed to eat in the restaurant, exercise in a gym, meet with our friends, or visit with our extended family. So many of us felt feeling bored, anxious, and lonely. While under full lockdown, we saw how music joined neighbors together. In Italy, Spain, and many other countries, neighbors sang from their balconies and managed to connect with one another, even when they couldn't be in the same physical space. We suffered it as well. In the last 30 years, music's role in fighting poverty has become larger and more diverse. Whether raising money to fund NGOs or teaching values through their crafts, musicians continue to play a unique role in poverty reduction efforts across the globe. A great example of this effort could be faced and traced to a singer and songwriter, Bob Geldof, who founded Band Aid to raise money for anti-poverty effort in then famine-stricken Ethiopia. In 2014, Geldof and his friend revived Band Aid for its 13th anniversary in order to combat the spread of Ebola in Western Africa. On 17 November 2014, Band Aid released a re-recorded Ebola-themed version of Do You or Do They Know It's Christmas? This was the song which became famous. Then we come to talk about the Venezuelan El Sistema, constituted a different kind of initiative. It uses music as a direct means of combating poverty, beginning with young students and musicians. Everyone, from pop stars to metal to avant-garde experimentalists, are grappling with the grief and anger that comes with living on a planet slipping towards environmental disaster. In recent years, as the climate crisis is spiraling towards the breaking point, artists everywhere are returning to Earth to ask what can still be learned and what might be still saved. Songwriters imagine world for children in which carbon continues to snuff out life. Electronic musicians compose elegies for lost species. Pop musicians use it to sound notes of fashionable dooms or to stir up some easy indignation. The sounds have grown more gothic and severe as climate change has started to look a lot like soft, everyday environmental degradation and more like certain death barreling down. Metal and punk have built up a long and proud history of environmentalism. They were built for end time and societal collapse. And it's no surprise they have a head start on music about environmental disaster. As the 70s soared into 80s, punk quickly took over environmental degradation when the hippies, they abandoned that. And experimental musicians such as Joseph Raglani, in 2018 album, which was called Extinction, features buzzing sounds from our globally collapsing insect population. The Alaskan-born composer electroacoustic work mixes string and woodwind with the unearthly hum that glaciers make right before cracking. Scientists have only recently learned to read this sound. In his 2019 work, Climate, the San Francisco-based electroacoustic composer, Eric Ian Walker, mapped climate data variable into his compositional framework. What Walker called chaos, if all of the variables are relatively normal, the music will sound relatively normal. But as the variable change, it may sound like a musician are playing out of key, playing different pieces, or sounding like it's going through a meat grinder. The composer, John Luther Adam, is a naturalist and environmentalist who has made his life calling to document the sense of planetary loss we are living through. Both through his music and his writing, Adam spent 4 decades in Alaska working as a conservationist and an activist before shifting into music full-time in the 80s. He holed up for years in a cabin with nothing more than an old piano deep in the Alaskan wilderness. His heaving 2013 piece, Became Ocean, was perhaps the most soothing statement about the threat of rising sea levels, precisely because it was so impersonal. The blooming piano pushed underneath the low-lying coronas of horn and string, sounding like a force with no interest in the awareness of our mortal struggle or our inability to change the course of our actions. Taking into account the deep commitment of the artists and musicians, public policy framework must therefore be translated into national action plan, which can bring a holistic and intersectoral focus to cultural policies as an instrument of social transformation and citizenship. The new policy should underline the important role of culture in tackling ecological challenges, coping with climate change, preventing biodiversity loss, and ensuring environmental sustainability continues. In conclusion, if we are to achieve the goals set out by the UN SDGs, we must focus on utilizing all tools available. Explicit within the SDGs is a mandate that we begin to encourage a global partnership for development. To create a true partnership, there must be a willingness to work in interdisciplinary themes and on multiple levels. All those who are engaged in environmental advocacy know how fundamental it is to organize sustained public awareness, campaign, and especially regarding the preservation of water, ocean, forest, and energy. I thank you very, very much.